Hello, friends. I'm Rick Walker, Mayor of DeSoto. Welcome to Rick Talks DeSoto, where we dive into key issues that affect our community today and tomorrow. Each episode, I'll share my perspective on the projects, challenges, and opportunities shaping our future and why they matter for all of us who call DeSoto home. Let's get started. Well, I know you've all received a revenue neutral rate notice in your mailbox, and if you looked at it and thought, what on earth do all these numbers mean? Are my taxes really going up 106%? You're not alone. Here's a quick breakdown. To be clear, first of all, no, your taxes are not doubling. So let's get into exactly what revenue neutral means. First, what is the revenue neutral rate? Well, the revenue neutral rate is the property tax rate that would collect the exact same amount of money as last year from the same properties. No more or no less. If a property value goes up, then the revenue neutral rate will go down to offset the increase. If a value drops, the revenue neutral rate would go up. Number two, what does the revenue neutral rate not consider? Well, it's important to know that the revenue neutral rate only looks at last year's existing tax base. It does not account for new development that has been added to the tax roll since last year, doesn't look at TIF or exempt properties, and these significantly change the total revenue collected, even if the rate stays at the same revenue neutral rate or lower. So what's the picture here in DeSoto? Well, we have noticed up a mill rate of 13.77, which is the same rate as last year. We fully intend to adopt a rate that is well below that number, somewhere around 12.9, but we will not be able to meet the state's published revenue neutral rate. And why is that? Well, if we tried to meet the state's calculated revenue neutral rate, we would collect about half the property tax revenue next year when compared to this year, which would mean we would have to cut essential services. So our plan is simple. We do not intend to collect more in property tax in 2026 than we collect in 2025. And in my estimation, that meets the intent of being revenue neutral, even if it doesn't match the state's technical definition. So, what about Panasonic? I know many people looked at the assessed valuation numbers and thought, Panasonic doubled the city's tax base. Does that mean my property tax bill is doubling too? The answer is no. Panasonic's property is inside a tax increment financing district, or TIF, and that means their property taxes are redirected to cover project costs and infrastructure that they have already paid for. They don't flow into the city's general budget for services like police, parks, or street repairs. So while Panasonic dramatically increased the city's overall assessed valuation, that does not translate into your household tax bill going up. In fact, it doesn't lower your tax bill either. The day-to-day cost of running the city still has to be covered by the same property tax collections we already rely on. So why did I get this notice? Well, Kansas law requires all local governments and taxing subdivisions to send you this notice anytime they plan to set a tax rate that is higher than the revenue neutral rate. That doesn't automatically mean your taxes are going to go way up. It just means the rate is above the no increase threshold that the state calculates. So what can you do? Well, the notice includes the time and date of public hearings for each taxing authority that's above the revenue neutral rate. So if you have questions about DeSoto's rate, the public hearing is your opportunity to hear the details and share your thoughts. Bottom line, here's what it comes down to. Your tax bill is not doubling. It's not increasing 106%. The city will collect the same total dollars in 2026 as in 2025 for those basic services. The revenue neutral rate is a transparency tool, and in DeSoto's case, the goal is steady, responsible funding, not a windfall and not a big spike in your tax bill. Well, thanks for listening to Rick Talks DeSoto. I hope this helped clear up some of the confusion around the revenue neutral rate. And if you have questions, I encourage you to come to the public hearing at the City Council meeting. Reach out and send me an email or give me a call. I'm Rick Walker, proud to serve as your mayor. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you around town.